Welcome back to part 3. We got ourselves some more information. So Grand River Fence Company here. My name is Nico Guillory. I am the owner, or rather founder and partner here at Grand River Fence Company, serving West Michigan and the Grand Rapids metropolitan areas. We have specifically a dig and set versus iDrive power system. What does that mean to our homeowners, to our clientele, to prospective clients, to even comparatively so to other business owners within our market? So when it comes to this, we've got a traditional dig and set versus an iDrive power system. All right, so very much like the granddad way, there's a lot of issues that we've found when somebody digs a hole in the ground, puts the post in the ground, puts concrete in the ground. These items tend to cause issues down the road, whether it's vinyl, aluminum, chain link, or even wood, especially wood. And there's a couple of things that tend to always happen pertaining to this. And one of this is like traditional dig and set has traditionally shallow holes. The code, or rather city ordinance, states it's 24-inch holes for Grand Rapids. The problem with that is 24 inches is the frost line, and 2, it's not indicative of a sound fence. The ASTM, so the American Standard for Testing of Materials, which is the standard that the fencing community, fence industry, is supposed to follow, is the rule of thumb is 30 inches. So half the height of the fence minus 6 inches is the standard for a traditional dig and set, post in the ground, concrete, so on and so forth. So a wood fence, a vinyl fence, all of 6 foot height, it needs a minimum of 30 inches of buried post with a minimum of 80 pounds of concrete. Traditionally, most companies go to 100 or 120 pounds of concrete. The problem with that amount of concrete is, yes, the footing should, I say should, conservatively, it should not fail. Problem that is we are disturbing soil around the post. Concrete's going to crack. It's going to trap moisture. It's going to do what's called frost heave. So if the concrete is not properly installed and belled out at the bottom, so your hole should come straight down in a cylinder shape and then bell out at the bottom to prevent frost. When the ground literally freezes, it won't just freeze and come out of the ground. The force that frost heave does and applies to fence posts in the ground is insanity. It will lift a whole truck plus some out of the ground if we do not install those concrete holes appropriately. And unfortunately, there's plenty of contractors in our area who don't understand that method. So we want to give, if a contractor is viewing this, I hope you understand. Like, at minimum, understand what frost heave does to your post. At minimum, get 30 inches, please and thank you. Anyway, so traditional dig and set methods, you've got a concrete in there. We're having to wait on cure times. Oftentimes, companies want to do wet set. So there's a couple different methodologies for us to actually put concrete in the ground, how we compact that concrete to achieve a suitable foundation. So that foundation should achieve a certain level of PSI, pounds a square inch, for structural integrity of that fence, or at least the foundation of that fence, right? So dig and set with wet set concrete, so that's traditional concrete, and then pouring water in, mixing it all up, throwing it in a hole. Problem with that is, one, it's going to most likely get onto the post that's exposed above the grade, so you get an ugly looking concrete post on your concrete residue on your post. Not fun, unless the contractor's doing a good job going through and cleaning it up afterwards. Then when it comes to wet set specifically, it's nearly impossible to wet set in a cold environment. When it's cold outside, that concrete's going to want to freeze. And if it freezes before it cures properly, then you're going to have chipping and failing concrete immediately. Now, there's ways to get around it, i.e. we can do what's called a dry pack. Now, don't be confused with dry set. Dry pack means we can put dry concrete into the hole, so powder form of concrete in the hole, around our post, in the post, so on and so forth. But we apply a proper paction compaction of that soil to achieve the proper amount of PSI. So through compaction, we can actually achieve the correct foundational PSI strength or tensile strength to that post foundation. Not to get too technical, as if I'm not already doing that, but that by dry packing that hole, we eliminate all the air bubbles in that concrete and compact around with the soil and like really get it soft and like really sturdy. So there's no issues with getting proper compaction points. So it's no different than, say, if it was wet set, but it allows us to build the fence the same day. If it's cold conditions, I'm not having to be concerned about the concrete freezing, because come time for, if the ground is completely frozen, then that means come springtime when water comes into the hole, it literally cures in the hole. But we've gone away from this, from our traditional digging set, so I'm getting into the nitty gritty here. Anyway, whenever we dig a hole, for an example, like we have to pull all that soil out of the ground. We're messing up all the soil conditions. So if we're in sandy, loamy soil, especially in sandy soils, if the certain parts of Grand Rapids is very rocky, there's a lot of landscape stones, like 1, 2, even 3 or 4 inch stones that can cause issue. By digging out the hole, we remove the compaction that was already there in the earth. So by removing that soil is now going to shift and turn and move, and your foundation is not going to be as sturdy. Plus, you're going to have a messy yard afterwards with all the soil, rock, clay, whatever it might be. It's susceptible to frost, wind, and settlement. Absolutely. It is hollow or a weak structure, and wood posts rot inside the ground. First and foremost, wood posts, even if it's womanized or treated, yes, the ASTM states that it should last up to 15 years. That is the lifespan, the full lifespan expectancy of a wooden post in the ground. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you're looking for a fence that's going to last you 15, 20 years, 30 years even, a wood post in the ground is not going to achieve that, unfortunately. Even if you went with a like, say, a cedar post, lifespan of a wood fence per manufacturer, 90% of manufacturers out there will state 15-year life expectancy with no warranty on their product, or at least minimal warranties on their products. Okay. Same with wind loads. When it comes to vinyl and aluminum fence, there's a hollow structure to that post. It's just like a square or a round post, and whenever there's no structure going through that hollow post, wind will literally fold it in half down at the grade. No amount of concrete is going to stop your fence from folding over, because the weakest area of your fence is not the concrete. The weakest area of your fence is actually at the extrusion point. So in this video here, you can see the fence itself. So where these horizontal rails insert into that post, those are extrusions. So those rails have to insert into the post to achieve our infill of the pickets. So by rails being inserted, we have that extrusion point. Those extrusion points, that is the failure point. That's the weak point in every single fence, whether it's aluminum or vinyl. Okay. Even in aluminum and chain link and wood, the failure point is almost never at the grade level, meaning the foundation, the concrete in the ground. It's almost never the concrete that's the issue. The issue is at the grade level where that post intersects with the ground. That level of area, i.e. vinyl, wood, aluminum, chain link, that is the failure point. That's where the tension from up top, the leverage that we can apply from the top of that post and fold it over, it folds every single time if the proper foundation is applied and installed at that failure point, either the extrusion points on aluminum and vinyl or at grade level with chain link and wood, every single time. So how do we fix that? Well, we go to a stronger post, i.e. the iDrive power system. We go to a stronger, thicker walled pipe that is driven over 4 feet into the ground. So traditionally, if you have a traditional dig set, your standard is 30 inches of buried depth. Minimum. Well, we go 4 to 6 feet deep, depending on the fence. Significantly further into the ground, reaching even more sturdy soils. Meaning if there's a sandy, loomy soil on the first 1 to 2 feet, well, guess what? We're hitting solid compacted earth 4 to 6 feet deep. That post is not going anywhere. If the post is a little wobbly up top, then we can apply what's called an X-wing, and that's going to achieve even more structural integrity by applying more leverage or force horizontally along that post inside the ground, just below the grade. I know I'm throwing a lot of terms at you, but here's the highlights, right? So iDrive power system, driven 4 feet to 6 feet in the ground, anchored in stable, undisturbed soil. So we're not digging any of that soil out, and we're not disturbing any of that soil. So there's no risk of frost heave, wind issues, settlement, the post settling and sinking into the ground. No issues there. So no concrete means no cure time, means faster installation rates. Oftentimes, our material cost is higher for this style of, or our styles of fences, but because we can install them in a single day and much quicker, our prices are very comparable to those who are doing a traditional dig and set. So not only are you getting a superior foundation, but you're getting a stronger fence that's going to last you a lot longer for relatively the same price. Same clean, same day installation, so there's no soil, there's no sand or dirt or rocks or clay at the base of your fence anymore. No dog running out on a wet day and oh crap, it's been only 2 days since my fence was installed and now my dog's on the fence line and getting his paws all dirty and coming in, running inside. No more issues with that. It looks like I copied and pasted this fence into your backyard in 1 day. You go to work, you come back, this fence been here for how many years? So minimal disruption, clean finish, proven resistance to wind, frost, and settlement. Wind. Let's talk wind, guys. So with wind resistance, we're seeing upwards of 100+ mile an hour wind resistances. You don't get that from a traditional dig and set, any type of fence. Under 100 mile an hour wind loads, those posts will fold over. Go to a hurricane state and see exactly what I'm talking about. When it comes here to, we get the occasional tornadoes, we get high windstorms, we get them. And I have seen it in the past where our fences, or rather other companies' fences as well, have folded over because of wind. So we are absolutely susceptible to that if we dig and set. So like our old fences, when we were dig and setting, we had those issues. But we've been able to eliminate all those issues by going to the iDrive power system. So we've gone away from that. We've been able to achieve higher wind load capacities. Let's take, for example, something happens to vinyl fence. The most common thing for vinyl fence under wind storms is those posts will fold over, right? That's for this dig and set. For our system, the iDrive power system, what has happened now, that weakness in the fence is now no longer the post, which, by the way, is the most expensive part to replace. Now, we can almost guarantee, actually, you know what? We are guaranteeing up to 100 mile an hour wind loads in your area. Meaning if the fence was to blow out, we will come back and fix the fence for free. And that's what's great. This fence, the post is not going to fail. The rails, or rather the pickets, are going to be able to fold a little bit. They'll actually kind of bow through the middle, the center. So this center here is the weakest point of the fence now, no longer the post. So the center of the fence is meant for it to blow out, and all we have to do is come back. Most likely the rails are still there. We just take the top rail off, put your pickets back on, put your top rail back in. You got a new fence all over again. It's a super easy maintenance-free, maintenance-light kind of fence. As far as like damages, very minimal damages, right? Especially with paired when we use high quality vinyl materials through our manufacturer. We use VEKA, VEKA. You can look them up. Anyway, moving on. So strong industrial internal beam system. Like I said, we take a Schedule 40. It's a 40,000 tensile strength pipe. It's 8 foot long, 4 foot driven into the ground, 2.5 inch wide, Schedule 40. PSIs, yes, and it's galvanized, so very minimal. It's got lifetime warranties on rust, so no issues there. Then that's the strong internal beam. So we've taken the weak point at the grade level and we've now brought it higher. So on vinyl, wood, aluminum, chain link, all those issues are gone. So the issue now has become, how do we create a stronger foundation? Not even a foundation, but a stronger fence itself. So the railing and the picket locations is now the weak point. And we strengthen those areas via aluminum inserts or shorter sections or just high quality materials in general. Okay. Schedule 40 PT post, thick walled pipe driven deep, Benefits to homeowners. We've already talked about a few of these things. So superior stability. Driven PT40 posts bypass unstable surface soils, staying solid where concrete always fails. Longer life fence. Posts resist leaning, sagging, and settling for years longer. Wind resistance up to 2 times stronger wind capacity to traditional methods, guaranteeing up to 100-mile-an-hour winds. Faster, cleaner installation. No messy holes, no piles of dirt, no waiting for concrete to set. Eco-friendly, no soil disruption, and no concrete contamination. No potential for concrete dust getting on your brand new house. Proven method. So the installation method approaches. This approach actually is being used in highway guardrails and commercial fence. So in highway guardrails, those posts that you see on the side of the interstate, those are actually driven into the ground. Those are about 6 foot driven into the ground using big I-beam girders. Those are meant to keep 18-wheelers on the road. If that method works for them, guaranteed it can work for you on a residential property. To include the proven method here, so we've been at Mr. Fence Academy, we've tested and proven this method over and over and over again by offering a 100-mile-an-hour guarantee. So this is definitely something to look at. If you ever saw this fence, the fence styles that we use for the iDrive power system in Florida, you would definitely tell the difference between, oh, look, that one's a traditional dig set, that one's an iDrive system, by just which one's standing left over. All right. So we've already gone over a couple of these Q&As. Why is the iDrive power system better than concrete? Does it cost more? Oftentimes it does, but it often does not. It's often to the existing fence prices out there right now, just because of how fast we can install this style of fence. So we're able to maintain, all the required margins for our projects to achieve the desired results and give you a very fine piece of work in half the time, most of the time, depending on your fence style. Will it stop my fence from leaning? It drastically reduces leaning. Any frost, heave, or potential issues with wind definitely reduces that issue. How much deeper do you go? I mean, we go 4 to 6 feet into the ground, while traditional dig set, if they're doing it right, is 30 inches. And if you're digging and you get near the end of the day, people get tired. They often want to cut corners. So it's always something to be cautious of. Can this be used for all fence types? Absolutely. Vinyl, wood, aluminum, and chain link. The only difference is in our aluminum, we use what's called an I-post. So the I-post is just a scaled down version of a girder, an I-beam girder. We've scaled it down to an aluminum I-beam, so it's an I shape, and that's just driven into the ground, so we have some additional stability. So that aluminum fence, if it's a hollow post, just the real quick motion, if I was right next to a post, I can snap that post in the ground just by that quick jerky motion. You cannot do that with the I-post. We have a video up on our Facebook and YouTube page where Josh is grabbing onto one of those posts and moving it around. And yes, it moves, but at ground level, you don't see it move at all. Zero, none. What's great about that is if there is an issue with it, you just kind of bend it back. No issues. So the iDrive power system, the strongest, most advanced foundation in the fence industry, directly improves your fence's strength, longevity, and resistance to Michigan soil and weather conditions. It's how we give you a fence that lasts longer and stands stronger. This is a way for us to give back more or less to the community, being able to move the industry forward, especially in our market with the Grand Rapids and West Michigan markets, to give everybody a better quality fence installation. Those fences that last 5-10 years, no longer. They're a thing of the past. We're done with it. We want fences that go 30, 50, 70 years. We want those long-lasting fences, no matter your fence choice. So in order to achieve that, we have to improve the foundation. We can't have frost heave. We can't use inferior product. We can't slouch anymore with our client experience. So I'm sorry for the long-winded video. I hope this is probably the longest video that we have on this playlist, but I wanted to really dive into this methodology because there's serious implications of choosing a bad method. Earlier in these videos, I've spoken on our education process. If you haven't learned about why we are doing these things and why such a robust job packet, I encourage you to watch our first video. So if you have any questions about this document or any of the other documents inside this playlist, please give us a shout. Love to have a conversation. All right, Nico Guillory signing out.